Okay, guys, I'm back. Okay, so we were reading Genesis 1, right? And we had gotten to this section where it talks about God is about to create man, and in his own image. Let's see, God made these earth, let us. Okay, so then it said, and God said, let us make man in our own image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the earth, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, right? So we were to have dominion over everything, kind of in the same way how God has dominion over everything. So it's like in his likeness in every way, right? So that's super cool. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. So this is where vegans, right, talk about how, going back to creation and how things should be originally, how God did not give us meat to eat. He wanted us to eat plants, right? Because he said to every beast, so again, it says, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every plant in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be your meat. To you it shall be your meat. See, now, why did he say meat if we didn't know about killing animals? Is that like the way, like the translation, because now we're aware of meat? Why didn't it say your food? Like, did God actually say your meat? I want to know, like, the original word here, does that word mean meat? Or did that word mean food? Right? You guys get it? Like, why would he say meat if they didn't kill animals yet and we weren't supposed to eat flesh? So why would it say meat? But anyway, that's just my thought. I think that the translation here might be a different word that could mean meat, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean meat. Yeah, anyway. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. So, that means there were no carnivores, period. It wasn't like we couldn't eat meat, but lions could eat meat. So lions, ooh, I just learned something, y'all. I just learned something. That means lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my, I always love to say that. I don't know why. But they couldn't eat meat too. I didn't even know that. I don't know why I thought they could have eaten. They can't eat each other. That's killing. And sin hadn't entered the world, so it makes sense. But I like the fact that it says that. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to speculate and to think about these things, but it's another thing to read it with your own eyes and see the truth of it. And to every beast of the earth, and every fowl, that means hawks, owls. Do owls eat meat? I don't know. But eagles, right? Even birds, right? Birds who now eat worms, that's an animal. They weren't supposed to. That was not their food to eat. Oh my gosh, y'all. Just revelation. Like, wow. To every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life. So if it's a living thing, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. That wow, I just learned something today. I don't know if y'all learned. I don't know if y'all knew that already, but I sure enough did not. And I mean, maybe I did subconsciously, but it never really, like, I never verbalized it. So I guess, like, anyway, moving on. Okay, so that was Genesis 1. So the active character of Genesis 1 is none other than Jesus Christ himself. So the person who's doing the creating is Christ. Okay, so and everything, and then remember it said, and God said, and this is for those people who are like, is Jesus God? Yes, he is, because they're saying that Christ is the creator, but God, it said, God said, let us make man in our image. So Christ as God was making all these things, right? And he said, let us make man in our image. So he was talking to God the Father and God the Spirit, and he was God the Christ, right? He was with God. He was God, and everything was made by him. He is the central figure of the creation narrative. He is the creator. So it continues, says, one of the most fascinating aspects of the creation story is the care and thoughtfulness that Jesus shows his creation. Specifically, it is shown in at least two instances in Genesis 1 when he named the light as day, and when he invested his creation with purpose. Like I agree there, because like as I was reading that, I kind of made the difference, like how he created the night, and then he created the day, and then he created the sun, and then the moon. So it's like he made them separate, right? He distinctively said, okay, it'll be day and this is night. He didn't make the sun to create day and then make the moon to create night. He distinguished day from night first. Then he created the sun to rule over day and the moon to rule over night. For some reason, that it's like it means something to me, because it's like it took its steps, right? And it goes back to me when I think about, the book that I wrote and how people learn. And I say that God is an organized God. So when he created us and how he organized the universe, he did it in steps. He didn't jumble everything together. And there were no presumptions, right? It wasn't like, and even here when it talked about like the seeds, he didn't say, let there be plants, and just assume that the seed's going to be in there, and then that the seed is going to eventually, be planted and cause more. No, he distinctively indicated it, made mention of it, so that the seed knows exactly what to do, how to do it. It's like, it just makes sense. He didn't just, say, you're going to eat plants, but he explained it, right? I don't know. I just think that that's just really great that it is that distinct and clear. So now it continues and says, the name of love. When you think about it, the ritual of naming is not just for pragmatic reasons. If parents wanted to name their children for the singular purpose of being able to properly identify them, they would name the first child 1, the second child 2, and the third one 3. The custom of naming our children carries with it a sentimental value. This is why parents will sometimes spend a lot of time thinking about the name the child will inherit, or purchase books containing the meaning of names of children. Similarly, most people do not take the time to name insects that sneak into their home, but may name animals or pets that are dear to their family. Jesus did not only identify the light as light, but also called it day. And I want to go back, as we think about this concept about the naming, the fact that it is so important about names, and God knows the importance. Like, it's showing you how God knows the importance of naming, right? So I feel like he gave mankind an important role, right? It's like, I don't know, like I just think about a parent and their children as they're cooking, right? Or they're, doing carpentry, or they're doing something, and then there's some things that as a child you cannot do, right? You probably cannot cut, the spice, or you probably cannot go onto the stove and, be in the stove, or on the stove, right? Doing preparation. But there's certain things that you can do, and God allows you to do the important things too. So like, when a child is mixing the batter, or is shaping, the mixture, or the bread, or the cookie, whatever, like that is an important aspect, or an important part or role in the creation of that food, of that game, or whatever it is. God gave us an important role, and that showed me, and it should show you how much he cares about what you think, right? Like, naming it, you could not created the animal, right? You did not take part in, because that's something that's out of your league, out of your capabilities. But he gave you something important by naming it, right? That will it's like it's not like you name it, but it's he gave you a claim to it. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys understand, but I feel like that is an important role. And so that kind of speaks to me as, a future parent, and you guys who are parents. When you are allowing your children to participate in something that you're doing, don't just give them mediocre roles that are nonsensical, that has no meaning, no value, but allow them to feel the importance of their inclusion by giving them some choice. It's a part that is meaningful, so that when they look back on this, they can feel like they were truly part of this whole creation, right? Not just, watch the thing as it boils and let me know. Like, one thing I love, I don't know, when I'm in someone's home, or when my aunt was cooking and then she says, taste the food, right? To me, that was like a real important role, right? Because when I taste it, and I can tell you whether it's too salty or too sweet, or you need to add or subtract. To me, that meant I was part of that cooking. The way that the food comes out, I was part of that. I did not probably cut the spices or put the blend or choose whatever, but I was part of it. You guys understand what I'm saying? So I feel like God did that for us, and we as parents should do that for our children, so that they can feel included in family worship, in their study or their work, or their endeavors, whatever it is that you're giving them to be a part of. That you might make most of the decisions, but the decisions or the participation that you're allowing them to get involved in, it has to be meaningful, the same way God made our participation in creation meaningful. The purpose of love. Another aspect of Christ's love is demonstrated in how the narrative depicts the creation of light. God made the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. Genesis 1:16. He made other lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and for signs and seasons, and for days and nights, days and years. Although it is not typically regarded as such, Christ's bestowment of purpose on his creation is an act of love. One of the worst acts of cruelty would be for Jesus to make something exist without a purpose. Many who find no purpose in life often seek purpose in seeking death. Yet love is the very nature of Christ. When he created humanity, he created it with the greatest privilege of all, the purpose of reflecting his own infinite and eternal image. Can there be a greater manifestation of love? So when to try to understand this, right? We see that they mention like the stars and the sun what they're trying to say is, if God made things that we might seem to think are inanimate with a purpose, then how much more would he have created us with a purpose? And when I think about this, I think in a larger picture, right? I think of the circle of life, right? How every plant, every animal, every thing has a reason for being there. And when you look into biology, they will tell you if one element of that, what is it called? Like the ecosystem, if one animal, one plant, one thing goes missing, then it ruins the whole setup, the whole circle, the whole cycle, and it has a domino effect, and it can destroy a whole economy, a whole lifestyle, a whole system, right? It's important to know that every plant, every animal, everything in our atmosphere, even the gases, right, that's out there, nitrogen, oxygen. When you look at the element table, right, the periodic table, the periodic chart, you see all of these elements, from nitrogen to phosphorus to chlorine to magnesium or plutonium, like even the dangerous ones, right? Like, they have a purpose. There's a reason why every atom was created. So when you think of inanimate objects, when you think of a tree or a bed or iron, an iron, something that you press your clothes with, or a steamer, whatever. Everything that was created that's inanimate has a purpose. So why is it that we who have breath, who have life, who can think, who can love, who can reason, who can make people happy, who can make people laugh, who can also hurt and make decisions, how is it that we are without a purpose? Even though you might not be able to find your bigger purpose, you have to be able to realize that your purpose might just be to exist, right? Okay, so when you think of you being born, you caused someone joy. Or you might think, okay, I caused my parents pain. Okay, they are saying that I'm a mistake, right? But if you allow yourself to live, to experience life, you might be a pain in someone else's neck or behind or side, but you are there. But that's not the only thing, because when you think about it, right? When you think of the system of life, like the ecosystem, with biology, right? So whereas the frog eats the fly, right, or eats the bee, so the bee can be a pain in the frog's side and it could be killed by the frog, but the bee is important for the plant, right? The bee is the reason why we have vegetation. So you cannot focus on the fact that you're going to be eaten or a nuisance or a problem to the frog. The bee or the fly, they can't think that way, right? Because their existence is not only to be eaten, they serve other purposes as well. So even if you have a mom, an uncle, an aunt, someone who's saying that you are bothersome to them, you're a problem for them, you are a mistake as when it in relations to them, but that is not the only purpose that you serve. You serve multiple purposes, right? Your existence will cause your classmates joy. If it's not your classmates, your family. If it's not your family, strangers. If it's not strangers, friend. Like you cannot be a bother to everyone, right? And if you give it time, you will notice that you will learn with experience, and you will see what it is and whom you're benefiting and whom you're helping. You will also be able to see who you're affecting in a negative way, right? Because some people won't stand you no matter what you do. They don't like your vibe. They don't like your aura. But that's their business, right? You cannot please everyone. Especially once the earth became corrupted with sin, you're going to cause trouble for someone. But in the same way that you're going to be in that lower tier and someone's going to dominate over you, you're going to dominate over someone else. Listen, even the algae, right? The algae is important. So when you learn about, and that's why I love like learning, right? And this is education. Like we're working through this, right? When you learn of algae, right? Algae is the reason why we have plants today. So when something decays, right, it causes that bring nutrients into the ground. And at some point, like they talk about how moss and all algae and certain bacteria, that is nothing that can be corrosive and corruptive, right? It will break into a rock and cause that rock to, become dust and earth and something that a plant can then grow in, and that can cause a desert to become a fruitful place, a barren place to become a fruitful place bearing fruits, right? So even when you feel like you're at the bottom tier where you're nobody and you're nothing, you are going to fertilize something. And if you allow that even that negative place that you're in to teach you and to help you grow, you will find that someone can use that moss, someone can use that fertilizer, someone can use that poop that you think that you are, the trash that you think that you are, as a fertilizer for their plant, for their growth, right? So never, in the same way God created things that seem meaningless, right? To have a purpose, to have a place in this whole life, in this existence that we see now, right? It's the same way that even things in our lives that we think are nothing, even ourselves that we may believe or somebody might have made you believe that you're nothing. That's not true. You serve a purpose too, but you have to give it time, right? It's not until it's dark that you know, that you can see the reason and the purpose behind stars, right? On a moonless night, and it's not always a moonless night, right? When the moon is like, because the moon, there's a whole moon, there's a quarter moon, there's a half moon, all of that, and then there's no moon at all, where it's like almost like a slither and you can't see it. It's on those nights that you see the beauty of stars and the reasons why they're there. But on a bright day, or even a bright night where the moon is shining, or even in cities where there are a lot of lights, high skyscrapers with a light, you can't see the stars shine as well, so you can't see it. See, when I went to Haiti, for the first time, when I was like in my conscious mind of an adult understanding things, that was when I was able to appreciate what the stars are, because Haiti does not have lights like New York does. So when we went on a walk and soirée barré nous, meaning like, it became dark while we were out and we didn't bring a flashlight, or we don't have the street lights, it was the stars and the moon that lit our way. That was when you can appreciate it. So what I'm trying to say is, your life might not seem to have meaning now, but give it time, give it space, and God will show you your purpose. There will be a situation, there will be a person, there will be a time when only you will be able to benefit that person, that place, that area, that time. Only what you know, only what you provide, only what you can offer will be beneficial. And that's when you'll be able to see your purpose, right? You might not see it at 5. You might not see it at 10. You might not see it at 30. You might not see it at 50. Maybe you got to wait till you're 60, but you got to give it time. And that's why I like that they mentioned, a person who, commits suicide, you're killing yourself. You're killing your potential. You're killing the opportunities that you would have to see why you're here. You might not see it now. It might seem hopeless now, but it won't be forever. Nothing that God created, that God allowed to exist, has no purpose. And it might not have a purpose for someone, but it will have a purpose for another person. So I want to encourage you guys to realize that you need to give yourself time, you need to give yourself space so that you can see why you're here. And you might not be able to see it now, but there will be a time that comes where you will see the reason and the purpose behind your existence. So stick in there. Stay strong. Realize that God is a creator that does everything in organized fashion. He gave everything a purpose. Things that seem meaningless, and things like us, people like us that are living and breathing with reason and capabilities. There's no way and no reason why he wouldn't give us a purpose. So stay encouraged and know that you have a purpose in this earth. All right. So I'm so grateful that God has enlightened us to this information. And he also showed us that he was part of creation. It was them. It was us. Let us make man in our image. That way we know that he is God. And he created this whole thing for our benefit, right? And we can learn to enjoy it in due time. Even if it's right now, we can't enjoy it as we would like, right? So be blessed. Stay encouraged. I will see you guys next time, either tomorrow or whenever I'm able to come on and share the lesson with you all. Have a great day. I love you guys, and I hope that God continues to bless you. Bye.